Here are resume tips in 2022 that you need to know if you want to get more job interviews and more job offers. And if you want more free career coaching just like this, I upload weekly videos up on this channel, so make sure you click subscribe down below or share it with a friend. And the very first tip is that simple formats are always better. So when it comes to formatting and structuring your resume, you want to go with something very simple and clean. You don't need any of those fancy templates that you can find on the internet that have graphics or a picture of your face, or any of those skills ratings where you rate yourself on like a scale of 1 to 5 or something like that. Recruiters just prefer to have simple formatted resumes so they can easily distinguish where you work, what your job title is, and if you are good at your job. So keep it simple. And the second tip is that the font that you use throughout your whole resume should be the exact same style. And other than the header or whatever is at the top of your resume, you should have the same font size throughout the whole resume as well. Now, as a quick pro tip, you should utilize the different font formatting like italics and bold and even underlining certain things in the resume to draw the attention of the reader and the recruiter to specific skills or experiences that you want them to know about. This is extremely helpful if you're doing a bit of a career switch or trying to get a different type of job. You need to highlight the transferable skills and experiences that you have. Now, this next tip isn't something that a lot of people think about, but if you have worked for or currently work for a company that isn't really that well known, like a startup, or is a company that maybe isn't that big in a certain industry, you may want to give your companies a little bit of a short description, like 1 to 2 sentences explaining what the company is. And your goal here is to make the company sound as cool and sexy and important as possible, so it makes you also look cool, sexy, and important and successful. Because if you are working for cool, sexy startups or companies and they hired you, then therefore that would also make you a great candidate as well. So if your companies on your resume don't quite have that big brand name recognition, you should consider giving them a very short description. Tip number 4 is if you do include a skills section on your resume, all of the skills that you have in that section should be hard technical skills. So I don't want to see any soft skills like teamwork or collaboration or hard working or creative thinker. I need to see hard technical skills related to the job that you are doing. So for example, if you work in marketing, your skills that you put on your resume should all be marketing related, like SEO or working with agencies or the different types of marketing that you do and have experience with. If you work in sales, I need to know which CRMs you work with, different products, what your industry expertise is. These are the hard technical skills that need to be on the resume. And the next resume tip is that it's actually okay to omit some of your previous work experience, especially if it's from a long time ago or if the experience and skills that you'll be highlighting are repetitive to what you are currently doing today or in more recent roles. Also, this is a great tip if you want to avoid potential age bias. And as a general rule of thumb, I always recommend all resumes are either 1 or 2 pages. And so if you need to cut down some content in order to make it into that specific page limit, then I do recommend you take a look at some of your really old work experience and see if some of that is no longer needed. And another resume tip is that if you have a work gap with 6 months or longer, you should explain what happened and what you were doing, either in the summary or in a chronological order within your resume in the employment section. This is so you can proactively address any concerns an employer or recruiter may have as to why you haven't been working for a sustained period of time. You don't want them thinking that you were fired or that you were very marketable in the marketplace and nobody wanted to hire you for that long. Instead, you should tell them that it was for personal reasons, for medical reasons, to raise a family, or things like that. And this brings me to my next resume tip in 2022 is knowing when you actually need to have a summary at the top of your resume. Now, I would say most people do generally need to have a summary statement, but for those folks who are doing the same job that they've been doing their entire career and work at a highly reputable company, and their job title is pretty straightforward and an exact match for what is the next job they're applying for, you don't really need to have a summary statement because it's just going to explain all of the other things that are already on the resume. This could give you additional real estate to write more powerful or impactful accomplishments and key bullets under each of your experiences. But if you are looking to switch careers, I highly recommend that you always include a summary statement because you need to be able to address the elephant in the room and explain what transferable skills and experiences you have in this next position. And another important tip in 2022 is that you don't need to include hobbies or interests as a separate section in your resume. In fact, recruiters and hiring managers don't really care about this at all. These are cool things you can bring up when you are grabbing lunch or doing an on-site interview and need to pass the time or talk about yourself outside of work, but it should not be using up valuable real estate on your resume. Next, bullets are always better on a resume than paragraphs or just writing sentences in general. Remember, recruiters and hiring managers are going to be looking at hundreds of resumes, and if they need to read a paragraph, just like reading when you needed to read a book in school, you're probably going to sigh and glaze over it or not even read it at all. Bullets are much better and more appeasing to the eye. It's also going to give you a higher probability that someone's actually going to take the time to read some of your bullets. And my last tip here is that if you are stuck or don't know what to write on your resume or how to make it longer and more impactful, I recommend you start by jotting down and explaining all of your key accomplishments and key projects that you have done in each of your different companies and roles. Use this as a springboard and starting point to get the ideas flowing and see what you should be at least putting on your resume as a minimum, and then you can add other projects from there. Alright, so now you have all of the resume tips you need to write the best resume in 2022. And if you found this video to be helpful, make sure you drop a like and click subscribe down below. And don't be afraid to comment what other videos you want to see us make so we can be extremely helpful for you. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.